following up on reports linking the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, with the 438 million naira contract awarded by the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta to New Planet Project, a company the Interior Minister co-founded and is currently a significant shareholder. The minister, who was cited at the presidential villa on Tuesday following the controversy, had claimed on live television that he is no longer involved in the running of the firm, having resigned as a director in 2019.
The company in question was a company where I was a director, and about 5 years ago, I had resigned my directorship over 5 years ago.
You own the company?
Yes, I founded the company 15 years ago.
Because the document online shows
definitely
that I yourself and your wife, isn't it?
I founded the company 15 years ago. But in 2019, when I got to the House of Representatives, when I won election, precisely, I did a change of this is it. You can have a look at it. This is, you can see it there.
That is a CSC document.
Certified true copy dated 2019, almost 5 years ago. I had resigned as director of the company. Is the company not entitled to bid for anything? I am not. I did it. I'm not Minister of Humanitarian. I'm Minister of Interior. This company can never work under Interior because that would be conflict of interest. That would be abuse of office. I never did that. So, and the company is a private entity. For me, I know there'll be a lot of pushbacks. And I'm saying this very clearly. This is not my first public office. I was member of the House of Reps. And as member of House of Reps, before I had resigned as a director.
Well, that was the interview that was trending on social media. I mean, there's so many things we got out of that information. The fact that he has owned, that he owns the company, and he's a significant shareholder of that company, violates many laws as well. The payments said to be made to the company, founded by the minister, include 279 million naira for the verification of beneficiaries on the National Social Register, and an additional 159 million naira for the same purpose. The company, which was registered on March 3rd, 2009, still has the minister and his wife, Abimbola, listed on the CAC website as directors. This was the question that the anchor was asking. It shows that you are still directors. I mean, why did CAC not remove it since 2019, 5 years ago? In the meantime, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, back in 2020, named the Interior Minister, who was at the time a lawmaker and chairman of the House Committee for the NDDC, as one of the many National Assembly members who benefited from numerous NDDC contracts. Adesuagiwa Osage interviewed the minister for our Untold Story project as he tried to clarify the allegations.
So as NDDC chairman, there's a very infamous situation that happens when the former minister, now the Senate President, Akpabio, is speaking and you ask him to off his mic.
I never did.
It was not you?
I didn't preside because I recused myself.
You recused yourself?
So it was my deputy chairman.
It was your deputy chairman.
Who are even the greatest beneficiaries? It's two people now. Okay. Because if you look at your chairman,
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, that's okay.
The two chairmen can explain to you. That is why I was a member. I was a member of the NDDC committee.
It's okay.
Let me explain.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Let me explain.
It's okay.
You must not allow the two chairmen to access the budget every year.
It's okay. Off your mic. It's okay.
Off your mic.
Honorable Minister.
Like me.
Yes, of course, I always believe I come to equity and I come with clean hands. So I had nothing to hide. So when they said they were in cover, I said, okay, I recused myself so that we'll be able to say everything. It's only a man that has something to hide that will insist he needs to decide over his own case.
I'm sure you all remember that off your mic scandal. At the time, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo recused himself from that committee so that the investigation could go on. But Akpabio at that time also clarified that, he made a mistake. But you could hear him there. He said that the chairman of that committee benefited from so many projects, which is the main issue. Let me take a tweet on social media. This is from Chris, who wrote, Minister Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo should be suspended as part of the ongoing investigation. 1. Minister Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo claims he is no longer a signatory to the account of New Planet Projects Limited, which got a whopping 338 million naira from Dr. Betta is not acceptable. 2. His wife is a director of the company. 3. He also remains a key shareholder and person of significant influence. 4. It is alleged that Tunji-Ojo colluded with Betta to divert more than $500 million naira to himself, of which a significant amount relates to consultancy fees. 5. If his activities are properly investigated, you can be assured that he will also have awarded a contract to Betta from his ministry in return, or Betta will benefit indirectly from his millions. Young ministers cut deals and embarrass the youth. 6. We are not calling for his suspension for being a signatory to the company's account. Instead, we are calling for his resignation in case of a conflict of interest. 7. It is also evident he has used his position to influence his company to get the contract. 8. We are also calling for an investigation to unravel dealings in Betta schemes that have not yet been discovered and possible prosecution. 9. The only way to guarantee a fair investigation is for him to resign or be suspended. 10. We acknowledge his current efforts in the government. However, corrupt individuals must be dealt with decisively. Making an effort to make our passport issuance system better is not an excuse for being corrupt. He is only doing his job as a minister.
President Tinubu has made a very good stance as regards suspending the minister. But like I said yesterday, President Tinubu's government stinks with this corruption. It's an indictment on him. In a fell swoop, 2 ministers, less than how many months? That's why I'm happy about his action he's taking. It's a deep one, and when you know when people will talk about it even more, will be during the electoral season. And that's why Mr. Olubunmi-Ojo, and I also say this on live television,
yes,
whoever advised you to go on television to start a defense you had no solid position about, just roasted you alive. And it has to be said, whoever advised you roasted you alive. Because you see, you were making arguments that were not great enough, that were not substantiated. You could hear yourself.
They're contradicting.
They were contradicting.
Yes.
You're saying you're a shareholder in a company. And also, the case of that NDDC must be investigated. Because we just swept that case under the carpet. Today, Akpabio is Senate President. And we can't just say a case like that are just off your mind. And guess what? I also talk about the NDDC.
Yes.
There's been a white paper released. The government should act on that white paper. They have finished the investigation. It was revealed many things happened in that white paper. They should be clear with people as regards that white paper, because we can't just allow brazen corruption go. And for those that are saying, yeah, he's done good, he's done well, he's done that and all of that, I keep citing this. It's confirmed that somebody is an armed robber. He kills people for a living. But in the end, the person also does charity. Will you say all the people's life that the person killed does not matter?
Yeah, impossible.
Because the person does charity.
Absolutely impossible.
No, he was just doing his job
yes,
as a minister.
like that Twitter user.
And we appreciate him for doing his job. But, you know, the Yorubas have been paying you if he doesn't do, another person will do.
We're talking about governing. We're talking about a working democracy. Nigeria is not a working democracy. And part of the effort of building a strong and viable political party is to make our democracy work first and foremost before people begin to think about another election. The problem with Nigeria is that we've thought in terms of elections. You go through a mess that is called an election and say, okay, let's wait for the next one. No, that's not how countries grow and develop. Countries grow and develop, first of all, by founding political parties. I can say without any feeling of wrong that we don't have a political party in Nigeria today. What we have managed to couple together since 1999 have been platforms for machine politics, where the game is about just grabbing power, rightly or wrongly, and sharing spoils. As a friend of mine, an American political scientist who's in the middle of a very interesting book, he's still writing it, probably will finish it later this year. I'm actually inviting him to come and speak about it in Lagos in a few weeks. And he makes the argument that what has gone wrong with Nigeria's democracy is that in 1999, somehow the politicians managed to build a kind of coalition that enabled them keep out the military, but essentially put themselves in position to share the spoils, and did not think of Nigeria and governing to make Nigeria better. So election after election, yes, we've kept some cycle going, and politicians have been able to go and share spoils, but Nigeria has gotten worse and worse and worse. And the Nigerian people are so unhappy that the effect has been violence all through. He does a remarkable comparison with the opposite, which is what has happened to India. If you look at India in 1999, it was a lot more violent in terms of rejection of the ways. But a developmental state has emerged in India. Their politics, the coalition, has been about making India work for Indians. And as India has done that, it's become wealthier, more stable. Violence has receded and receded in India, while it's rising and rising and rising in Nigeria. So one of the major reasons why this is happening is that Nigeria did not manage to build a political party. It built these coalitions of politicians trying to share spoils in a rentier state. And it has neglected the people of Nigeria, the development. So the first thing is, can we have a real political party? And that's where our conversation begins. How do we build a political party that is clear in its sense of where Nigeria should be, the role that everybody should play in getting Nigeria there, how political parties recruit and socialize people and mobilize the whole populace to focus on these ideas about how progress comes to everybody. And that then leads to true progress, as we see in India. I've spoken very frequently about the simple difference between a Nigerian political party and, say, the ANC, for all you care. Omano Edigije, Omano, has written this book on developmental state in South Africa and now in Nigeria. And Omano keeps making the point that the Nigerian state is in the developmental state. And it's true. It is just a coalition of politicians to share greedy sharing of spoils of office. Because of that, the neglect of development, the triumph of corruption in Nigeria has just made it difficult for Nigeria to develop. Look how South Asia has now emerged, overtaking even Southeast Asia of the miracle economies in terms of sheer economic development and growth. Because the Indian state, in the nature of the political coalitions that emerged around the same time as we were becoming a new democracy, have focused on the Indian people and growing India. And you will see fascinating videos talking about where India is, where it will be, and all of that. In Nigeria, our politicians don't even have a care for the Nigerian people and where they are going. And I give you an example. My own book, which is out next month, in interviewing senior civil servants, a former head of service says to me, civil servants do nothing. Head of service. They do nothing because the political parties don't come with a program. If a political party comes to power, it should have a program that defines what the permanent secretary literally will do in 4 years. How to hold him accountable for delivering a premium on performance for implementation, all the way to the level 8 officer. And this becomes the basis. And I added to this, if we have a tripartite approach to development, which involves the private sector, the public sector, and the so-called private development agencies or the NGO sector, what we will see is a continual state of checks and balances and innovation for growth and development, which is what has happened more or less in India. The truth of the matter, the naked truth, is that what is happening in Nigeria is inevitable because the Nigerian state is not constructed to serve the Nigerian people. It's constructed to be bargaining between politicians looking to share booty. because that is what it is, you will have all this corruption, because it's like, oh, you've taken your own, you don't want me to take my own. The Nigerian people don't matter in these conversations. How did we do the last time? Well, it's kind of you to say that we put all of this together and then we lost election. I still completely reject the idea that we lost election. That's not true. But Nigeria is what it is.
So you're not confident about the court?
The movement that became...
So you're not confident about the court?
It was a farce. Total farce.
The Supreme Court judgment was a farce?
I said a farce. Nigerian court system, complete farce.
Are you not impugning on the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court judgment was a farce? Was it a farce? Is that what you're saying?
My opinion, as Patu told me, it was a farce. But let's just put that aside and go on. There's a legitimacy crisis in Nigeria. Look, Rufai, I'm around the world. I'm around the planet. I'm talking in very important places around the world on a, I don't know, so frequently. I know what they think of what happened in Nigeria. So that's not a disputable matter at all. And I've cited continuously what the EU mission said about the elections, what NDI said, what IRI said. But I don't want us to go back into the elections. That's not the issue for now. I'm just trying to make the point that the last elections, we're not about P2B, by the way. The Nigerian people had become so frustrated, so fed up with the nature of the way Nigerian politicians carried on, that when Peter Obi said the right things, it resonated and drove the emergence of a movement that generally got called the obedient movement. Around the world, Nigerian diaspora, and if you look at the resurgence of many of the success stories of the 20th century, they had a diaspora base from post-Meiji Restoration Japan. Japanese diaspora was pretty important in that happening. The Indian diaspora has been very significant in what is going on in India. Chinese diaspora had its place, and so on and so forth. So the Nigerian diaspora rallied very strongly around the fact that this gentleman was saying a few things right. And a campaign like Nigeria hasn't seen in a long time happened. And it was deliberately sabotaged, whatever you say about it. And the point remains, how do you go forward when you meet this? You've got to realize and take advantage in trying to save Nigeria that the majority of this country is young. A significant part of our population is under 25. It is fed up. It is looking for something new, but it's also trapped. That's the most dangerous thing about where we are. This generation is trapped in their values. Look, why is Nigeria not growing? Why are multinationals leaving and all of that? If your politicians are constantly cheating at every turn, they cheat at elections, they cheat in using of public resources, the U.S. Treasury Secretary is found in economy class, but the Nigerian minister would charter a plane to go to somewhere next door. In a very, very poor country, you realize there's a complete disconnect between the political actors in Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. So when that is the state that you have, what do you expect to happen with how you move forward with this population that is the majority? You got to come to some sense that at a point, they won't be able to hold down the majority anymore. And it might be very costly for them. Very, very costly personally for them. So you will begin to see a breaking. See, look at the tracks we're traveling. We are traveling to Somalia, where we should be traveling through India to somewhere else right now. The analysis of this American political scientist friend of mine, who, like I said, will be in Lagos in a few weeks to share some of his thoughts on this, basically looks at a Nigerian scenario where, you know, there will be increased violence in Nigeria, and as an expression of frustration, and we've seen it become universal in Nigeria,